Good evening, everyone. This video is a direct response to Wednesday's attack on the Capitol. On Wednesday, January 6th, I watched in horror as an angry mob stormed the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. I watched as angry people, filled with rage and hatred, desecrated the building that symbolizes the voices of the people of this nation. Members of the House and the Senate had to be escorted from their respective floors to safe locations because the mob that committed an act of terrorism and sedition plowed violently through Capitol Police in order to intimidate our Congress to change the outcome of the election. I would like to show you a personal photo of mine. For those of you who cannot see, this is a photo of myself and Congressman Jim Costa of Fresno. I interned at the United States Capitol back in 2012 as an intern for the Japanese American Citizens League. As a person who has had the privilege of serving as an intern for Congress back in 2012, I was appalled. I remember feeling angry. I remember feeling rage. I remember feeling furious. I also remember feeling fear. Fear about the future of this nation. Fear about the minority religions such as ours in this country as well. I think we can see the power that words can have. The power that words from people with immense amount of power, political power, can do. I condemn these strong words and calls for violence that were invoked to spark this outrageous act of sedition against our government. For those of you watching who are not Buddhist, if I seem a little riled up right now, if I seem a bit angry right now, it is because I am. If people who are not a part of Buddhism think that as a Buddhist I can just meditate the anger and sadness that I feel for the actions of a huge mob of people, that isn't what Buddhists are about. And it isn't how Buddhism works either. We feel emotions of anger. We feel emotions of anger, rage. We get upset. And we do feel sadness as well. And to my members, and to the members of the Tacoma Buddhist Temple, if you are feeling sadness, anger, or fed up, these feelings are valid. It is important that we acknowledge this pain, acknowledge this poison we all have that is part of the human condition. However, feel it, really feel it. But the second you turn that anger into violent and destructive actions, you become no better than the malicious mob that attacked the Capitol. I join with the countless religious leaders from around the world and across this nation in condemning this act of violence against the Capitol. Buddhism teaches us that hatred will not be stopped with more hatred, that we must combat hatred with non-hatred. But that doesn't mean that we don't point out or call out when injustice has occurred. It also teaches us that we must combat ignorance with the truth. We can see that those who refuse to see the truth and to refuse to see the way and refusal to see how things really are will take extreme measures, even resort to actions of violence to force the world to try and see their skewed point of view. There has been a lot of talk about coming together and uniting as a country. I want that just as much as the next person. However, it is painfully obvious that there does exist a group of individuals who absolutely have no interest in coming together for meaningful dialogue. It is obvious that there was a group of people who have no interest in peacefully coexisting with their fellow citizens in this country. I condemn these actions of violence and blatant attack on the Capitol. However, let this also be a lesson to all of us, especially for those of us who are Buddhists. It is easy, and in many ways, rightly so, to point our fingers at the ones who stormed the Capitol and say, they are the enemy, they are the bad ones. But we ourselves must continue to live this life with the notion that we are not always correct. We must continue, as hard as it is, to live a life of inspiration from Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion. We are not always right. We may not have all the answers. In fact, I am still so filled with anger that it is hard for me not to think those dark thoughts. I stand with the religious leaders of the United States in condemning this act of violence. So let me be very clear. As a religious leader, we feel angry. We feel hurt. Many of us feel betrayed. However, I, along with every other Buddhist Church of America priest, I am sure, say that we preach peace. We preach peace. We preach peaceful protest. We preach a message of interdependence. This is why I feel we are all hurting right now and feeling anger. Because while we may preach peace, we can see that there are many who do not resort to that. While it is easy to separate the mob and us, we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, well, I didn't do this. We can still feel the effects. We can still feel the shame. We feel the fear. I say again that my message is only one of peace. We must feel the anger. We must loudly call out injustice when we see it. However, when we become so blinded by our rage and by our fury, then events like what happened on Wednesday can easily take over us. So to all of the members of our community, to all the members of the temple, know that if you are feeling afraid, upset, sad, anger, even rage, know that I feel those things too. But unlike a certain person, I encourage a healthy acknowledgement of those feelings, but then to once again put your hands together in Gassho and say the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, as we have each other to lean upon. Most importantly, we have the light of Amida Buddha to keep us from turning our anger into destructive forces. Now more than ever, we must look towards the images of Amida Buddha, just like here, the 6-character Nembutsu, to remind us all that as Buddhists, we are being tested. We are shown very clear visuals of what samsara looks like. We can talk about coming together and oneness in later times to come, but it first must be acknowledged that I, as a religious leader, condemn this atrocious act of violence against members of our Congress, members to the Capitol Police, and the act of violence against members of the public. It is going to take some time to heal from this act of terror. My thoughts are with all of you tonight, and I sincerely hope that those responsible for this act of destruction will be brought to justice, and that we as a nation can start to heal from this devastating event. But until we have completely healed, which is, I'm not sure when, I turn back towards the Myogo, and remind myself that even in this dark time, even after such a terrible event, Amida Buddha still shows me wisdom and compassion. Amida Buddha gives me wisdom and compassion because I am angry, because I am a bombu, because I am filled with just this blind sense of ego right now. Amida Buddha shows me wisdom and compassion. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nam Manda, Nam Manda, Nam Manda, Nam Manda.